For 3,000 years, peace had reigned across the galaxy. The Galactic Concord, a vast alliance of more than 50 different species, had kept the universe stable. They had one simple rule: no war. Species that joined the Concord swore an oath to live in harmony, to work together, and never to turn their weapons on each other. Humanity, the newest member of the Concord, had proven itself a valuable addition. While their technology wasn't as advanced as some species, their creativity, resourcefulness, and fierce determination made them stand out. They were peaceful by nature, but no one could deny their ability to adapt, survive, and thrive. Over the centuries, humans had proven their worth, becoming respected members of the peaceful coalition. They weren't feared, but they were trusted. And then came the Voltrax. The Voltrax Dominion was a powerful empire from a distant corner of the galaxy. Known for their ruthless tactics and advanced military technology, they were a species few dared to cross. Their leaders were cold, calculating, and proud of their strength. But for reasons no one could understand, they suddenly broke the sacred peace of the Galactic Concord. One fateful day, the Voltrax broadcasted a message to all members of the Concord, declaring war on humanity. This is not a threat. This is a promise. The message began, cold and sharp. Humanity has become a threat to the stability of the galaxy. The time has come to remove this problem before it spreads further. Prepare yourselves. The Voltrax Dominion will no longer stand by as you continue to grow unchecked. The message was a shock to the galaxy. The Concord had always been about peaceful coexistence, and for the past 3 millennia, no one had dared break that trust. But the Voltrax had done it. They had declared war on the youngest and weakest species in the entire alliance. The galaxy held its breath. For days, there was silence. The Concord gathered to discuss how to respond. Some species called for an immediate counterattack, while others suggested they should try diplomacy first. But no one knew how to handle the Voltrax. They were ruthless and unpredictable. Humanity's reaction, however, was far from what anyone expected. When the message reached Earth, people didn't panic. They didn't start preparing for war, nor did they rally to defend themselves. Instead, they laughed. It started as a small chuckle, but it quickly spread. Across cities, across nations, across the entire planet, humans laughed. They laughed at the idea of the Voltrax, the supposedly fearsome warriors, declaring war on them. It wasn't that humans didn't take the threat seriously. They had been through countless struggles in their own history. From wars to natural disasters, they had faced down nearly impossible odds. But this, a war with the Voltrax, it was almost laughable. The laughter echoed through the planet. People posted memes, made jokes, and shared videos of them mockingly preparing for the Voltrax invasion. "Here come the space bullies," one meme said, "but we've been through worse." Videos showed humans holding up everyday objects like frying pans, golf clubs, and old laser pointers, pretending to prepare for battle against the mighty Voltrax fleet. The Voltrax, on the other hand, were baffled. They had expected fear, they had expected panic. But instead, they were met with ridicule. Across the galaxy, humans didn't take the threat seriously. They mocked it. They laughed at the idea that the Voltrax, who had conquered worlds and crushed countless enemies, would start a war with them and expect to win. The Concord was just as confused. They didn't understand how humanity could be so relaxed. Some questioned if they were underestimating the Voltrax, while others wondered if humans had some hidden weapon they weren't revealing. After all, no species that had survived for so long in the galaxy was ever truly helpless. But humanity's laughter wasn't just about mocking their enemies. It was about something deeper. Humans had a history of facing impossible odds and surviving. They had survived wars, famine, disease, and every other challenge the universe had thrown at them. They had learned to laugh in the face of danger, to find humor even in the darkest of times. And now, they were showing the galaxy that they didn't fear the Voltrax. Not even a little. As the Voltrax fleet prepared to strike, Humanity only laughed harder. They weren't afraid. They weren't backing down. They had faced worse, and they would face this too, with laughter, with courage, and with everything they had. And somewhere, deep in the heart of the Voltrax dominion, something began to change. What they thought would be an easy victory had suddenly become a confusing, frustrating, and dangerous puzzle. Humanity wasn't the weak target they had imagined. And now, they had to figure out what to do about it. The Voltrax Dominion's sudden declaration of war against humanity had sent shockwaves through the galaxy. The powerful empire, known for its vast fleet and advanced technology, believed humanity would tremble before them. Instead, they were met with laughter. It was a response no one had expected. At first, the rest of the galactic concord watched with confusion. Surely, humanity was underestimating the threat. The Voltrax had crushed countless civilizations before, their military might unmatched. How could humanity, a relatively young species, not be terrified? But the truth was, humanity wasn't afraid. The laughter that echoed across Earth wasn't out of ignorance or foolishness. It was the sound of a species that had been through far worse and had survived. For humans, this wasn't their first time staring down an impossible enemy. In fact, it was almost routine. Throughout history, humans had faced overwhelming challenges. Wars had torn their planet apart. Countless lives had been lost to disease and famine, and natural disasters had wiped out entire civilizations. But each time, humanity had risen again. They had rebuilt their cities, healed their wounds, and fought their battles. In the darkest moments, they had found the strength to laugh, to stay united, and to never give up. Humanity's secret strength wasn't just their technology or their military power. It was their ability to adapt, to learn, and to persevere. While other species relied on advanced weapons or ancient tactics, humanity had a different approach. They had a deep well of creativity and an unbreakable spirit that had allowed them to survive against all odds. Many species in the galactic concord had never faced the kind of challenges that humanity had. While they had their own struggles, they had never been pushed to the brink of extinction. The Voltrax, with their pride and ruthless approach to war, could not understand what it meant to face overwhelming hardship and still keep moving forward. To them, war was about power, and they believed their superior strength would guarantee victory. But they had never dealt with a species like humanity. Humans had learned to fight, not just with weapons, but with their minds. Their creativity in the face of danger was unmatched. When faced with a problem, they found new ways to solve it. They didn't rely on brute force alone. They used strategy, cleverness, and sometimes humor. It wasn't just the laughter that had thrown the Voltrax off balance. It was the message it sent. Humanity wasn't afraid because they had survived the worst the universe had to offer. And they had done so with a smile. The Voltrax had miscalculated. They had underestimated humanity's strength, not understanding that it wasn't just physical power that made humans strong. It was their resilience. As the days passed, more of humanity's response to the Voltrax declaration of war came to light. The global media had flooded with jokes, memes, and videos of humans preparing for war in the most absurd ways. But behind the humor was a serious message. We are ready for whatever comes next. It wasn't just the civilians who laughed. The military, too, had been quietly preparing. Humans didn't need to show their full hand immediately. Instead, they had begun activating their defense systems, but not in the way the Voltrax expected. Instead of rushing into battle with brute force, humans began to outsmart their enemies in ways no one had seen before. They had learned from their history of wars. Humanity's greatest weapon had always been their ability to adapt and learn quickly. Thousands of years ago, humans had used the power of their minds to develop technologies that no one thought possible. They had developed weapons of mass destruction, but they had also learned the consequences of such power. Now, they were more cautious, more strategic, and far more advanced than the Voltrax realized. Behind the laughter, there were also quiet meetings among Earth's top leaders. Diplomats and military strategists worked tirelessly, preparing for the coming storm. Humanity wasn't naive. They knew the Voltrax would not back down easily. But they also knew that the Voltrax's approach was flawed. The Voltrax thought they could intimidate humanity, but in doing so, they had created the perfect opportunity for humans to demonstrate their true strength. Humans had learned to fight on multiple fronts. They were not only preparing for battle in space, but also fortifying their planet. Their cities were equipped with hidden defenses, and their armies were trained to fight in ways the Voltrax had never seen. The war might have started with laughter, but it would not end that way. Humanity had a deep well of resources, from advanced weaponry to their ability to innovate under pressure. And then there was one final aspect of humanity that the Voltrax failed to grasp: the power of unity. Despite their differences, humans had always found ways to come together when faced with a common enemy. The Voltrax had made a grave mistake. They had made humanity stand together, not just as nations, but as one species, united against a threat. As the Voltrax fleet advanced toward Earth, they had no idea what they were truly up against. They thought they were battling a young and weak species, but what they were about to face was far more dangerous. A species that had learned to survive, to fight, and to laugh in the face of defeat. The Voltrax fleet was massive, stretching across the stars like an unstoppable wall of metal and power. With their sleek ships and advanced weapons, they had been used to facing little resistance in their conquest of the galaxy. But when they arrived near the borders of the human territories, they were met with something unexpected. Instead of finding a frightened, unprepared people, the Voltrax were greeted with a strange kind of resistance. Humans weren't afraid. They weren't panicking. Instead, they were laughing. The Voltrax commanders were furious. "What are they doing?" One of them growled, watching as humans in their colonies on distant planets sent out transmissions full of jokes, memes, and pranks. They should be cowering in fear, begging for mercy. On the surface, it seemed like an insult. The Voltrax had expected humanity to beg for peace, to cry out for protection. But all they got was mockery. It wasn't just the jokes. It was the tone of the entire response. Humanity was not afraid. They were calm, collected, and completely unbothered by the Voltrax's threat. As the Voltrax fleet moved closer, they began to launch their first attacks on human colonies. The first target was a small outpost on one of humanity's frontier worlds. The Voltrax thought they would wipe it out easily. They sent in a wave of fighters, bombs, and missiles, confident that the small human population there wouldn't even stand a chance. But when the first wave hit, something strange happened. The humans had anticipated the attack. The colony's defenses, which had appeared weak and unprepared, suddenly came to life. Hidden shields activated, protecting buildings and key structures from the barrage. Missiles fired from the surface of the planet shot down several Voltrax ships in the blink of an eye. And then, to the surprise of the invaders, the humans struck back. But it wasn't with guns or bombs. It was with something far stranger. Holographic projections filled the skies over the colony, showing giant, cartoonish versions of human soldiers waving their arms, playing pranks on the Voltrax fighters. One of the holograms even appeared to slap a Voltrax fighter out of the sky, only for the hologram to disappear and reappear laughing. "What is this madness?" One of the Voltrax generals shouted over the communications line. "They're mocking us." At first, the Voltrax tried to brush it off. They thought it was some kind of distraction. But as the battle continued, it became clear that the humans were doing more than just playing games. They had set traps, used advanced technology in unexpected ways, and quickly adapted to the Voltrax's attack patterns. The humans weren't just defending themselves. They were controlling the battlefield with surprising creativity and clever tactics. The Voltrax tried again, sending in a second wave of ships to attack the colony. But this time, they found themselves caught in a trap. The colony's outer defenses had been upgraded, with laser grids and force fields now preventing the Voltrax ships from getting close. The humans had predicted this attack as well, and they used advanced AI to launch their counteroffensive. Suddenly, Voltrax ships were being disabled one by electromagnetic pulses, sending them spiraling out of control. The Voltrax commanders watched in disbelief as their once unstoppable fleet was now being outwitted at every turn. This wasn't the easy victory they had expected. This wasn't the defenseless humanity they had been warned about. Humanity wasn't just surviving. They were thriving in the face of danger. What's happening? One of the Voltrax leaders demanded. How are they doing this? The answer, of course, lay in humanity's ability to adapt. While the Voltrax had relied on overwhelming strength, humanity had always been forced to use their brains. When faced with war and destruction in their past, humans had learned to fight back with ingenuity. And now their creativity was their greatest weapon. On Earth, the laughter continued. It was no longer just a reaction to the Voltrax's threats. It was a message. It said, "You may have power, but we have something better. We have the ability to adapt, to learn, and to outthink you." As the battle over the frontier colony raged on, the Voltrax were forced to retreat. Their advanced weapons and overwhelming numbers had been countered by humanity's quick thinking and unexpected strategies. The colony, once thought to be doomed, was now safe. The Voltrax were frustrated, confused, and unsure of what to do next. They had underestimated humanity. They had thought they could simply crush this species, but now they were discovering that humanity wasn't so easily defeated. And what worried them most wasn't just the strength of human technology. It was the strength of human will. The Voltrax had made a dangerous mistake. They had underestimated humanity's resilience, their creativity, and their refusal to give up. They thought they could start a war with humanity, but what they were really starting was a battle of wits, a battle humanity had mastered long ago. And so, as the Voltrax fleet retreated into space, the galaxy was left with one undeniable truth. Humanity wasn't just surviving this war, they were winning it. And as the human colonies celebrated their victory, they knew this was just the beginning. There would be more challenges to come, but they were ready. After all, they had survived far worse before. As the Voltrax fleet retreated, the galaxy watched in amazement. Humanity's victory in the first battle had stunned the Voltrax and everyone else. How could a young species, one that had been around for only a few thousand years, have withstood an empire as powerful as the Voltrax dominion? The answer, however, was simple. Humanity had faced much worse in their past, and they had always survived. What the Voltrax didn't understand was that humanity's history was filled with struggles that had shaped them into the formidable force they were today. Every war, every disaster, every setback had taught humans how to adapt, innovate, and survive. Their resilience came from the lessons learned through centuries of hardship. In the quiet halls of Earth's leadership, officials and military strategists gathered to discuss the next steps. The Voltrax had made a major mistake in underestimating humanity. But the war wasn't over yet. The Voltrax would not give up so easily, and there would be more battles to come. Humanity's leaders knew that they had to prepare for the worst. But they also knew something the Voltrax didn't. Humanity had been preparing for this moment for a long time. For thousands of years, humans had quietly kept their most powerful weapons hidden, just in case. These were not weapons of mass destruction, but weapons of survival. They were the result of humanity's greatest minds working together, creating solutions for problems no one had ever expected. The Voltrax had made the mistake of thinking that humanity's peaceful years were a sign of weakness. They thought the human species had become soft, too comfortable in their advanced society. But they were wrong. The human spirit had never been about power or violence. It had always been about resilience, about facing the impossible and finding a way through it. In the deepest parts of human space, there were secrets buried for centuries. Ancient defense systems, built during the darkest times of humanity's past, were now ready to be activated. These were not the weapons the Voltrax had seen so far. These were the weapons that had been designed during humanity's most desperate days, when war and destruction had been constant companions. These systems were built to protect humanity from threats far beyond the Voltrax. They were a reminder of the darker days when Earth had fought for survival. They were humanity's last line of defense, and they had been carefully hidden away. Now, they would be brought to the surface. Back in the Voltrax Dominion, the High Command was in chaos. Their fleet had been forced to retreat, something no one had expected. The Voltrax, known for their ruthlessness, had never backed down from a fight. They were furious, but they couldn't deny that something was different about humanity. They weren't just fighting, they were outsmarting them. And that terrified the Voltrax. The Voltrax decided they needed to try something new. They would send in a team of their best soldiers, highly trained operatives who had never failed in battle. Their mission was simple: eliminate the human leadership and break their will to fight. If they could take out humanity's leaders, the rest of the species would surely crumble. But what the Voltrax didn't realize was that the human leaders had expected this. They had known that the Voltrax would come for them. Humanity had seen this kind of tactic before, and they had learned how to counter it. The Voltrax operatives would find themselves walking into a trap, one designed by humanity's best minds, built on lessons from their past. Humanity had faced countless threats before: foreign invaders, disease, even self-inflicted wounds. Each time, they had learned and grown stronger. The Voltrax were just another challenge, and humanity was ready. But this wasn't just about technology or weapons. It was about something deeper. Humans had learned how to survive when they had nothing left to lose. They had learned how to find hope in the darkest of times. This spirit of survival had been passed down through generations. It was the reason they had never given up, no matter how impossible the odds. It was what made them different from every other species in the galaxy. The Voltrax, however, could not see it. They saw only what was in front of them: their superior ships, their advanced weapons, their trained soldiers. They could not see the quiet strength of humanity, the power that came from years of struggle and survival. They could not see the shadow of humanity's past, which had shaped the present and would now shape the future. As the Voltrax operatives prepared to launch their mission, they were unaware of the trap they were walking into. Humanity's leaders had already prepared. The weapons hidden in the depths of Earth's surface were now activated, and the human defense systems were ready to make their stand. The war was far from over. The Voltrax might have thought they were dealing with a weak and divided species, but humanity had already proven that they were anything but that. The galaxy was about to witness something no one could have predicted. Humanity, not just fighting for survival, but fighting with the full force of their past, present, and future. The Voltrax were sure that the next step in their war against humanity would be their victory. They had sent in their most skilled operatives, the best soldiers in the galaxy, to strike at the heart of the human leadership. They believed that if they could eliminate the leaders, humanity's resolve would crumble, and the war would be over. It seemed like a foolproof plan. But what the Voltrax did not know was that humanity had already anticipated their move. The leaders of Earth and its colonies were prepared. Their enemies had underestimated them, and this mistake would prove to be their downfall. As the Voltrax operatives prepared to land on Earth, their ships were intercepted by a series of hidden defense systems. These were not weapons anyone had seen before. The Voltrax ships were caught off guard as electromagnetic pulses and lasers fired from secret launch points across Earth. The Voltrax had thought they could sneak in, but instead, they found themselves facing the full power of humanity's hidden defenses. The humans had set the perfect trap. The Voltrax soldiers, though trained to be some of the best in the galaxy, were now running into walls of resistance they had not prepared for. The electromagnetic pulses scrambled their technology, leaving them vulnerable and confused. Their communication lines were down, their ships unable to follow their planned routes. They couldn't reach their targets, and their mission was beginning to look like a failure. Back in Earth's command centers, The leaders of humanity watched as their plan unfolded perfectly. The humans had not just relied on their defenses, they had also used their most powerful asset, their unity. Earth's citizens had rallied together, even those who lived in the furthest corners of human space, to create a network of defense systems that the Voltrax could never have imagined. In one of the command rooms, General Ainsley stood before a large holographic map, watching as the Voltrax operatives struggled against the hidden traps humanity had set. She turned to her colleagues with a determined smile. "They thought we were weak," she said. "Now they're going to see that we fight with everything we have." The Voltrax operatives, now stranded in unfamiliar territory, were beginning to panic. They had trained for years for this mission, but nothing could have prepared them for the unexpected level of resistance. They tried to contact their fleet, but their communication devices were still down. They attempted to call for backup, but their calls went unanswered. The humans had anticipated everything. One by one, the Voltrax operatives were captured or forced to retreat. They had underestimated the humans' ability to fight back, and now they were paying the price. The traps set by humanity were not just technological, they were psychological as well. The humans knew that the Voltrax relied heavily on their technology and their sense of superiority. The moment the Voltrax were stripped of their advantage, they were left confused, isolated, and vulnerable. Across Earth's cities, news spread of the Voltrax failure. The humans had done the impossible again. They had stopped the most advanced force in the galaxy with nothing more than their wits, their technology, and their unity. But the victory was bittersweet. While the Voltrax operatives were retreating, the war was far from over. General Ainsley knew this was only the beginning. The Voltrax would not stop just because they had faced a setback. They would regroup, they would adapt, and they would come back stronger. But humanity had already proven one thing. They were not to be underestimated. The battle for Earth was just one part of the larger war. Humanity had taken the first step toward victory, but there would be more challenges ahead. The Voltrax had underestimated humanity's ability to defend themselves, but now they had learned an important lesson. Humanity was not a species to be ignored or crushed. They would fight to the very end, and they would do whatever it took to protect their homes and their future. In the quiet moments after the battle, General Ainsley stood before her team, looking at the faces of the people who had helped make this victory possible. They were all exhausted, but their spirits were high. They had won this fight, and they had done it together. Now, it was time to prepare for the next phase of the war. "Don't let this victory make you complacent," Ainsley said. "We still have a long way to go. The Voltrax will be back, and when they come, we will be ready." Humanity had shown its strength once again. But in the back of their minds, they knew that the Voltrax would not give up easily. The trap had been set, but the war was far from over. The Voltrax were not known for their ability to learn quickly, but humanity's victory had forced them to reconsider. They had underestimated the humans' resourcefulness and resilience, and now they were determined to find a way to crush them once and for all. But they couldn't ignore the facts. Humanity had surprised them at every turn. After their humiliating failure on Earth, the Voltrax leaders held an emergency meeting. They gathered their most powerful commanders to discuss the next move. The decision was unanimous. They would launch a full-scale assault on the heart of humanity's power, Earth itself. The Voltrax had more ships, more firepower, and more soldiers. It seemed like a victory was guaranteed. But there was something the Voltrax did not understand about humanity. They were fighters, not because of their weapons, but because of their spirit. The humans had already faced impossible odds and survived. This was just another challenge for them to overcome. As the Voltrax prepared their fleet for the attack, humanity's leaders weren't sitting idle. They knew that the Voltrax would come again, and this time they needed to be ready. The strategic minds on Earth had spent weeks planning their next move. They knew they couldn't rely on just one victory. They had to outsmart the Voltrax in ways they hadn't yet thought of. General Ainsley stood at the heart of the command center, staring at the holographic map before her. The Voltrax were on the move again, and Earth was their next target. But Ainsley wasn't worried. She had seen the determination of her people, and that alone was enough to give her confidence. Humanity had something the Voltrax didn't: the ability to think, adapt, and surprise. "We're not just going to wait for them to come to us," Ainsley said, her voice firm. "We'll take the fight to them." The humans had learned from their first victory. They had hidden their most advanced technologies, ready to unleash them when the time was right. They had developed new weapons, new tactics, and a new way of thinking that had made them a force to be reckoned with. And now, they were ready to use them. The Voltrax fleet was enormous. It was unlike anything the humans had ever seen before. Yet, as it drew closer to Earth, humanity was already making its move. Hidden satellites and long-forgotten defense systems were activated. Earth's atmosphere shimmered as human ships, armed with advanced stealth technology, emerged from their hidden bases. The Voltrax had no idea what was coming. The humans didn't wait for the Voltrax to land. Instead, they took to the skies, launching wave after wave of high-speed fighters. These weren't ordinary ships. They were equipped with energy shields, advanced weaponry, and AI-controlled targeting systems. The Voltrax were caught off guard as they found themselves surrounded by human fighters that seemed to come from nowhere. The first battle was a chaotic dance of explosions and blinding lights. The Voltrax fired relentlessly, but the humans were quick and nimble, dodging every attack with precision. The Voltrax ships were large and powerful, but they were slow compared to the humans' smaller, faster craft. And each time the Voltrax thought they had an advantage, the humans found a way to turn the tide. It wasn't just about strength. It was about strategy. The humans used their knowledge of the battlefield to their advantage, placing traps in the sky and using the environment to make it harder for the Voltrax to land their forces. They also used psychological tactics, sending out false signals to confuse the Voltrax and create chaos within their ranks. Every move the Voltrax made was met with a counterattack from humanity. Back on Earth, the battle raged on in the skies, but the humans were also preparing for a ground assault. While the Voltrax were focused on the fighters, humanity's ground forces had already moved into position. Earth's cities had been fortified over the past few weeks, with bunkers and defenses reinforced. The Voltrax didn't know it, but their attack on Earth was exactly what the humans had been waiting for. At the same time, a secret weapon was being activated deep within the heart of Earth. A massive underground facility, hidden beneath the surface for centuries, was coming to life. This was humanity's last line of defense, a weapon so powerful that even the Voltrax would have to think twice before attacking. It wasn't just a weapon of destruction, it was a weapon of survival, designed to give humanity a fighting chance in their darkest hour. The Voltrax, having underestimated humanity once again, found themselves caught in a situation they couldn't escape. They had expected Earth's defense to crumble under their attack. Instead, they were facing an enemy that not only fought back, but was outsmarting them at every turn. The tide was turning, and the Voltrax were beginning to realize that this was a battle they couldn't win by sheer force alone. As the humans fought on, their victory seemed more and more likely. But the Voltrax weren't done yet. They were a proud and powerful species, and they would never give up easily. The war had only just begun, and both sides knew that more battles lay ahead. But humanity, with all their strength, creativity, and spirit, had already made one thing clear. They were not going to back down. And that was something the Voltrax had never expected. The battle was reaching its peak. The Voltrax fleet, once confident in its might, had begun to falter. Humanity had thrown everything they had into the war. The skies above Earth were filled with human ships, racing between explosions and laser fire. The humans were everywhere, using their speed, creativity, and cunning to outmaneuver their enemies. It was clear now. The Voltrax had underestimated humanity, and they were paying the price for it. On the ground, Earth's soldiers prepared for the final push. The Voltrax had tried to break through the human defenses, but their attempts had failed. The humans had built their cities and military installations with foresight and resilience, understanding that they might one day need to defend themselves from a threat like the Voltrax. The result was a defense network so intricate and powerful that even the Voltrax could not break it. General Ainsley stood on the command bridge, her eyes scanning the battlefield. The Voltrax were retreating, but they were not defeated yet. Their remaining ships were trying to regroup, and their ground forces were making one last attempt to push through Earth's defenses. Ainsley knew that this was the moment that would decide the fate of humanity. They had to finish what they started. "Prepare the final wave," she ordered. Her voice was steady, but beneath it lay a deep resolve. She turned to her officers. "We end this now." The human fleet moved into position, their ships forming tight formations that locked into place above Earth. The humans had saved their most powerful weapons for this moment. It wasn't just about firepower. It was about showing the Voltrax that humanity could not be broken, that no matter how much they tried, they would never give up. The Voltrax fleet, battered but not broken, launched a counterattack. They focused their fire on the human formations, trying to pierce through the defenses. The battle raged fiercely, but humanity's ships held strong. They had learned from every fight, and they used their knowledge to adapt, avoid damage, and strike with precision. Each move they made was deliberate, their actions calculated to frustrate the Voltrax at every turn. But the Voltrax were not giving up. They were desperate. They had sent their best warriors, and they would not be satisfied with failure. The remaining Voltrax ships moved in, attempting to flank humanity's forces from the sides. It was a last-ditch effort, their final gamble. Then, General Ainsley made her move. She gave the command to unleash Earth's secret weapon, an enormous, powerful energy cannon hidden deep beneath the surface. The cannon, a product of humanity's greatest engineers, was designed to fire a focused blast of energy so powerful that it could destroy an entire fleet. The weapon had been in development for years, hidden away as humanity's final line of defense. The cannon fired. The energy blast shot into space, cutting through the Voltrax fleet like a knife through butter. The Voltrax ships tried to dodge, but it was too fast, too powerful. The blast tore through their ranks, vaporizing ships in seconds. The remaining Voltrax forces were thrown into disarray. They couldn't keep up with the speed and precision of humanity's attack. The humans had learned from their mistakes, and now they were using that knowledge to win the war. With the Voltrax fleet in ruins, humanity pushed forward. The final push was swift and decisive. The Voltrax, realizing they had no chance of winning, began their retreat. They had been forced to admit that humanity was a force they could not defeat. Their arrogance and underestimation had led them to this point, the brink of defeat. As the Voltrax retreated into the void of space, General Ainsley allowed herself a moment of quiet relief. The war was over. Earth had won. Humanity had proven that they were not a species to be taken lightly, that their will to survive and protect their world was stronger than anything the Voltrax could throw at them. Back on Earth, celebrations erupted. People gathered in the streets, cheering and waving flags. The entire planet, united by their shared victory, celebrated together. The war had been long, and it had taken everything humanity had, but in the end, they had triumphed. But even as the humans celebrated, they knew one thing. They could never forget the lesson of this war. They had faced an enemy far more powerful than themselves, and they had won because they were willing to fight for their future. The Voltrax had shown them the importance of unity, resilience, and strength in the face of overwhelming odds. General Ainsley stood on the steps of the command center, looking out over the crowds below. She knew that humanity had proven something important to the galaxy, that they were a force to be reckoned with. But more than that, humanity had shown that no matter what challenges lay ahead, they would always stand together. And that was something no alien force could ever defeat. The war was over. Humanity had won, and they had done it together.